Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, Sabaton Army. We've got another good one for you here today. We're going to be checking out the song In the Name of God. This was requested by several folks. We got Lionel Lyons, we got Unorthodox Spork, and we got Eaten by Ghouls. And lastly, we have B period, G period, A period. BGA gave me a link to the live that we're going to be watching today, so thank you BGA for that. We're going to be doing 3 videos today. We're going to start with the lyric video. Then we're going to do the Sabaton history, and we'll wrap it up with that live performance that was requested by BGA. So going to do a deep dive into this song. I looked for official Sabaton videos on all this stuff. The only one that I could find that was official was the history. So there's no official lyric video yet, and there's no music video for this song. So we're going to have to go with what's out there on YouTube. Is what it is. Not going to waste a lot of time on promo. Like, comment, subscribe, join the Patreon, all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and jump into the lyric video for In the Name of God by Sabaton. All right. Oh, obviously an older Sabaton song. This is another one that they've done that is zero attempts made to rhyme anything in this whole song, and that's frustrating for me as a listener. It's an important song with an important message, but the lyrics are just they're grab bag lyrics, and what I mean by that is, I believe as they were preparing this song, they were like, I want to make sure this line gets in there somewhere. I want to make sure this verse gets in there somewhere. I want to make sure this verse gets in there somewhere. They wrote them all down, like 50 different verses that they want to make sure get into this song. They threw them in a hat, and it sounds like Joachim's just pulling them out and reading them along with the music, and nothing's rhyming. Even the cadence scheme is kind of all over the place with regards to the words running together with a good pacing, that kind of stuff. And it's sad for me because this is an important message in this story, talking about all these terrorist organizations. And man, this I'm not so impressed so far. I've only listened to about a minute 15 of the song, but it just it's very erratic, very erratic. Hope maybe it'll get better from here. I hope so. Uh, we'll see. Let's go ahead and jump back in. Let me see something here. Pay action, reappear forgotten. Peace, destruction, owns action. Nope. I thought maybe they were rhyming it every, fourth section of words, but that's not the case. Yet you cause pain and destruction. Kill your own, or response of your action. Chosen by God for a power insane. Stand up and show me your face. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. I'm not a uniform and high in the crowd. Calling only, calling just, authorized by heaven. Be wounded as the guy and call it God's will. All right, they put together a few verses there that rhymed. Good job. Chosen by God for a coward insane. Stand up and show me your face. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. I'm not a uniform and high in the crowd. Calling away, calling just, authorized by heaven. Give you the nasty guy and call it God's will. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. I'm not a uniform and high in the crowd. Oh, okay, well, get ready. Here comes a very unpopular opinion. This might be my least favorite Sabaton song that I've ever heard, and I think I've done 40 reactions so far to Sabaton songs. This one just really does nothing for me at all. It seems so. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, we're getting ready to watch the history and the live performance, and maybe that'll change my opinion on this song. But wow, this to me, this might be the worst version of any Sabaton song that I've heard so far, and that's sad. Not sad, but obviously, any group is going to have their best songs and their worst songs. To me, so far, everything I've heard, this is the worst Sabaton song that I've heard so far. Is what it is. Hit me up in the comments. Tell me what a dumbass I am. But this song, you can't sing along to it. Normally, I can at least fall back on the music being great, but the music was just standard. Nothing blew me away on the guitar solo or anything like that. So, is what it is. I am looking forward to honestly seeing the history behind this, because obviously this is a major thing that's been happening in my lifetime. So it's going to be stuff that I can relate to. Let's go ahead and jump on over and take a look at the history. This is Sabaton History number 86, In the Name of God, the History of Terror. We got Indy Nidell and Pear from Sabaton. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Like I say, it's going to take something incredible to turn me around on this, but this probably is my least favorite Sabaton song. But let's check it out. Here we go.
There are several reasons why people and nations go to war.
For God is one of them.
Sic semper tyrannis, thus always to tyrants. These famous words, promising death to unjust rulers and dictators alike, are commonly attributed to Brutus as he fatally stabbed Julius Caesar. That assassination is one of the earliest recorded acts of terrorism. The ancient world had its fair amount of tyrannicide and political backstabbing, though, the kind with actual knives. Violent gangs and hired killers roamed the streets of Rome and Athens, intimidating or outright murdering those who would cross the wrong people. The Middle Ages saw terror used as a weapon in warfare. Armed bands raided villages, attacking seemingly random people and robbing them of their valuables.
This is one weird looking painting right here. Holy crap. It's very cartoonish. Interesting. Very interesting.
But terrorism as we know it began in the pre-modern age of enlightenment. The philosophers of the 18th century began to fundamentally change the understanding people had about power and the natural order of societies. The general public began to grasp that sovereignty of the state did not have to reside in single figures like kings or emperors, but could in the nation as a whole. The common people consequently felt that they were subjects of a deeply unfair system, which ruled through the oppression of the masses. As the people revolted, the ideas of tyrannicide re-emerged. It would be the French Revolution that really began changing things. After the violent deposition and later murder of Louis XVI, it was expected that his socio-political system of oppression by the privileged few would vanish as well. But even as the old order fell apart in the chaos of the revolution, the violence did not stop. On the contrary, the National Convention of the Revolutionary Jacobins proudly proclaimed that terror is the order of the day. Anyone affiliated with the old regime, or even slightly suspicious of standing in the way of progress, was suddenly fair game for popular violence. Having a different opinion or doubts about the course of the revolution became synonymous with treason. Everyone could be a counter-revolutionary, as the specifications were held deliberately vague. Violence against enemies was in fact encouraged. The political assassin who killed one to save 1,000 became the central romantic figure of the time. In its zealotry for change, the French Revolution set the language and purpose of modern terrorism. Robespierre saw terror as prompt, severe, inflexible justice, a virtue that enforced social progress and cultural change. The rule was given over to a régime de terreur, and its members proudly called themselves les terroristes. Terror also consequently destroyed any chance of political dialogue. The traditional barriers of humanity broke down as terror simply bred more terror. Blood ran in the streets as hundreds of thousands were killed by guillotine, firing squad, and lynch mob until the revolution eventually turned in on itself. Now, the Russian Empire was still, by the end of the 19th century, easily the most backward nation in Europe. Over 85% of its people were illiterate peasants, living in poverty and shackled to serfdom. There were no elections, no political parties or trade unions to ensure their civil rights. Instead, they were ruled by the absolute power of the Tsar, and he used the police and the army to keep it that way. But new opposition began to appear. Marxists, liberalists, anarchists, they all stood in opposition to the exploitation of the agrarian people, and were often led and supported by groups of young students who dreamed of bettering the Russian society. Conspiratorial activity had an intriguing, mystical flair to it, and many would-be assassins stylized themselves as fanatic nihilists who lived only for the cause, and the cause was the destruction of state authority. Many praised banditry as the most noble and pure form of the revolutionary. Each assault against the state, each knifed politician, each policeman gunned down was a step forward. The perfect terrorist freed himself of all ethical concern, since the concepts of morality and legality were already perverted by the oppression of the state. He would have no emotional attachments save to the cause and never compromise his goals, for the revolution would be total or it would not be at all. The goal of terrorism was to demonstrate the weakness of the governing elite and to provoke popular rebellion against them. Another game changer was the invention of high explosives. In the past, gunpowder plots had been crude and prone to failure, but Alfred Nobel's invention of dynamite soon found its way into the hands of terrorists. Unlike knives and revolvers, Using dynamite would not be mistaken for an ordinary murder. However, when Tsar Alexander II was killed this way in 1881, so were a lot of innocent bystanders as well. Russian newspapers began flooding the market, each trying to sell themselves by printing in big bright letters about new assassinations and new terrorist attacks. The media played its part in spreading the propaganda of the deed, attracting people bitter, alienated by society, and thirsty for revenge to a cause that was promised to be popular, historical, and grandiose. Over the following decades, modern terrorism took on many forms. Socialist violence surged in Europe and the US after World War I. Russia fell to the Bolsheviks and saw the terror of the Russian Civil War. And a series of political murders destabilized interwar Europe. Japan underwent a whole era of government by assassination, and the Ku Klux Klan reemerged as a big threat in the US. In the 1930s and 40s, state terror from fascist, National Socialist, and Stalinist governments was turned against its own people from the top down. After 1945, the world saw anti-colonial terror, violent ethno-nationalism, or radical separatist movements, white supremacist terror, radical left-wing bombings, lone wolf killing sprees. The tools of terror could be used by any group and for any cause. Still, what many of us nowadays associate with modern terrorism was shaped by the events of September 11, 2001, when a group of Arab jihadists hijacked 4 airliners and crashed them into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Seemingly overnight, the Western world focused on the existence of international Islamist terrorism. It was, of course, way older than that. Jihad, that is, to struggle and strive on the path of God, can be interpreted as a defensive war in the name of Islam. Jihadis believe in Tawhid, that the only authority comes from Allah, and every Muslim should be solely guided by His will and the words and actions of the Prophet. No other worldly authority, no laws of states or secular societies could stand above them. With the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim world lost its acting unified authority, the Caliph. Most Muslim countries came under Western economic dependence and political influence. Consequently, a small westernized elite emerged that ruled the Arab nations through secular and industrial means. The first major resistance against such modernized societies was the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Their motto embodied jihad. God is our objective, the Quran is our constitution, the Prophet is our leader, struggle is our way, and death for the sake of God is the highest of our aspirations.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about 9/11 because obviously that's something that happened in a lot of our lifetimes. I want to talk about my experience on 9/11. Long time ago, I worked in construction. I was an electrician, and I was working in Las Vegas, Nevada at the time, building a hotel casino called the Palms. And on the day of 9/11, I was up on the top of the tower at the Palms, working in the bar at the top there is called the Ghost Bar. And me and a friend of mine, Tony, we were up there wiring the fire alarm systems into that building for that particular bar. I got a phone call in the morning from my wife, and she said, "Well, the craziest thing's happening right now in New York City. A plane just crashed into one of the trade towers, a small plane, and it's on fire." And I didn't think anything of it. It just seemed like something crazy that had happened, and it by far didn't feel like it was a terrorist attack when that first plane hit. Um, so I told her, "Hey, put a tape in and record it, and I'll check it out when I get home," because she was watching the news. Obviously, was covering it live around the country, around the world. And then I get another call about, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour later. She says, "Oh my God, another plane just hit the other tower. This is a terrorist attack. Our country is now under attack from terrorists." So that changed the whole feel of everything. From that moment on, everybody got very serious at work. There was a gentleman there who had a small radio that he carried around on his cart so he could listen to music and stuff while he was working. He tuned that into the news. And I remember for a good hour or so, everybody that was working up there in the Ghost Bar was just silent, listening to that news broadcast, and getting real nervous about the fact that, hey, we're up in a tower right now in a city that terrorists call Sin. It's Sin City is the name of the town, and terrorists might want to make a example out of Las Vegas as well by hitting a tower in Las Vegas. So after a while, they actually evacuated my construction site and sent us all home. Obviously, within that course of time, the Pentagon had been hit. The flight had gone down in Pennsylvania, and all the planes in the United States had been grounded by the end of that day. But what started off as any other day turned into one of the most infamous days in the history of the world. And I'm actually kind of curious what you guys experienced on the day of 9/11. How did it impact what you were doing that day? Uh, if you live in the States, what was your experience? If you were overseas, how much did they cover it? Was it something that worried you as a foreigner to the United States, that kind of thing? Really curious what happened to you guys on those days. So let me know down in the comments. I want to hear your stories. And this last verse here that he talks about here, um, death for the sake of God is the highest of our aspirations. A lot of people, when they talk about evil, as many of you who've watched my channel for a while know that I'm not a religious person. I'm an atheist, but I can understand that these men who did what they did on 9/11, in their minds, they were not evil. In their minds, they were heroes. In their minds, they were doing something very brave and very something to be, congratulated by their peers, that they were doing something attacking the big bad West and hurting them. In their mind's eye, they were doing something great. So we might call them evil, but in their own minds and in their own culture's minds, they were heroes to their people. So it's really kind of crazy. I would like to say that there's no way that this would have happened if religion hadn't have been involved, but as Indy told us here in this history lesson, it hasn't always been just religious reasons that people perform terror. Political reasons come into play as well, and a lot of people are passionate enough about politics and in their countries that they're willing to sacrifice themselves for a political reason as well. So, I can't just say that religion, if there were no religion, that this wouldn't have happened, because obviously that's not true. That's not true. But of course, religion played a big part in it. These guys believed that the second they crashed those planes into those buildings, they were going to be transformed to another place where they'd be in paradise, with all the virgins and all the stuff that they promise you in the afterlife. So they not only felt like they were doing something that people could be proud of and that they'd be heroes for within their own communities, but they also had this paradise waiting for them after they did it. So, oh man, tough subject. Again, I'd like to hear your guys' story about any terrorist attacks that may have happened near you, or where you were and what you were doing on 9/11. Let me know in the comments. Here we go.
Their aim was to push the European imperialists out of the Muslim world and retract their secularist influence. Disgust and hatred for Western materialism, open sexuality, and the culture of the American way grew. For the devout jihadists, obedience to Allah meant not just rejecting these values, but open revolt against them. The popularity of jihadist teaching surged as the westernized leaders failed to secure economic stability and instead resorted to autocratic oppression. Young men, disillusioned and lost, were vulnerable for radical interpretations of the Quran. The Palestinian cause, the Iranian Revolution, or the fight of the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, they all radicalized a new generation to violence. The belief that the deeds of a small vanguard could free the Muslim world from Western shackles unleashed a new era of international terrorism. It was now a tool to humiliate the West and cripple their societies with fear and outrage. Martyrdom, especially the destruction of the target by the death of the assassin himself, became an ideal in the eyes of the most radical. Suicide bomber motivated by the promises of the afterlife, was especially effective in horrifying the Western world. And each terrorist act produced the desired echo, both of repulsion and admiration. Historians are debating if this recent era of jihadi terror was fundamentally a new thing or a similar phenomenon to the terror of the past. Each religion has its fair share of radicals and fundamentalists who would not refrain from violence against non-believers. But the idiosyncratic use of Islamic teachings, the prospect of apocalyptic struggle and beneficial martyrdom is rather new. Still, beyond the religious rhetoric, the leaders of Al-Qaeda, Hamas, and ISIS all have very secular motives for their use of terror. All seek to hurt and provoke their enemies and to recruit more followers through an escalating circle of violence. But the end is to be the acquisition of power, territory, and influence among their people. What has also changed is the use of the media. Terrorists know full well that every attack will be at the center of media attention for weeks. They themselves will use the internet and social media to connect with sympathizers all over the world and display their horrific acts of violence to entice others to follow. It would be foolhardy to assume that terrorism will be simply eradicated one day. Instead, it will continue to evolve to be part of radical causes and beliefs. Terrorists, no matter their religion, ethnicity, or political conviction, will always try to hurt their tyrants through acts of fear and violence. Hoping to change an oppressive system, they will continue to kill and hurt innocents. We can try to understand their cause, try to understand the history of terrorism itself, but we can never, ever really justify it.
Stand up and show me your face. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. Like the last tried uniform and hiding the crowd. Calling on me, calling just, authorized by heaven. You won't get out the dying, calling God's will.
You have songs like, for example, The Final Solution, which is about people and committing horrible atrocities in the name of a political or ideological thing, right? But there are also, for example, suicide bombers, people that commit horrible atrocities in the name of religion, whatever their religion happens to be.
Yeah, that's true. And the song In the Name of God takes up exactly that. It's a bit of a, also controversial topic because there is a certain part that can be connected to rebellion and uprisings in it as well. But this song refers mainly to the people who by religious minds, commit it, not for necessarily to achieve anything else than attacking people who don't think the same way that they do.
And this is not something, sure, we know it goes back, you can read the Bible and see it going back thousands of years, but even in recent times, there's plenty of this going on. Now, we were talking recently about the Charlie Hebdo attacks and stuff. Now, you have something interesting about that.
Yeah, because that was one of those moments when such an attack came close to us, so to say. The attack on Charlie Hebdo in Paris happened, I think it was 3 days before our concert's gonna happen, just in the same street, just like few hundred meters down the street.
Wow.
So when we arrive at this concert venue on the show day, the whole place is basically barricaded and locked down and all these police barricades everywhere. And we were super worried what's going to happen. But fans encourage us, do not cancel in this, because that would be to like kind of submit to these things. So do not cancel, please play the show. So it was a weird feeling because there was no cheering, no partying. All the fans who arrived at the scene, they saw all these police lockdown things. And as they were letting people inside, we realized also that this is a show. Normally, we do not really, so to say, we play like Sabaton. We're always doing what we do. no matter the circumstances. And we perform our songs in the best way we can. In this case, we actually felt for the first time, I think, that we needed to adjust to the mood of this. We cannot run out and be all like that, because the fans here, they want us to play, but they want us to also feel with them.
Yeah.
Also in under our normal gear, we had the Charlie Hebdo shirts, and I think it was a very emotional moment when Joachim opened his vest and he showed that we are also we are wearing this, and we saw it everywhere in the audience.
Okay.
There were a lot of people that night who requested us, can you please play In the Name of God?
Okay.
Because this song is about this. And we felt that the song would trigger anger, and it was not really what we wanted to trigger at that moment.
Well, what about like things in the name of God that even directly affect bands, like the shooting, the Eagles of Death Metal shooting, 5 years ago, I guess it was?
Yeah, it's also in our memory, and it connects to us. I mean, we had people who were on site, and it's a very strange event in our career. I'm sitting and editing our live DVD, and I'm getting this message from one guy who is in Paris, and he sends me a message. I am safe. I was at the show. I'm safe. And I'm like, what is going on here? Then we see vague information coming out on Swedish site that there has been happening something in Paris. The whole night unfolds as we are watching, and I'm thinking that this is happening in Bataclan, a place where Sabaton was just before this happened.
Okay.
It was also the same promoter that is involved in doing the Sabaton shows who did this concert. Not closely, but I am aware, and we met some people who didn't make it that night.
Wow.
And people that worked on our show just a few months earlier. And we also later had a tour bus which had bullet holes. And they kept the bullet holes in order to honor that, because it was the bus driver and the bus that was there that night. Mm. So, and we used that for riding around in Europe for a while. And again, there was suggestions when this happened. There is some fans, a lot of fans who say, this is why you wrote the song, In the Name of God.
Well, it kind of is, to draw attention to just that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing those stories with us.
That's it for this week.
On Sabaton History. See you next time.
Listen to me, everybody. We love the Sabaton History channel. If you do it, please share it with us. Support it on Patreon, YouTube, and any way you want. Let's do this forever.
All right. That was the Sabaton History for In the Name of God. I didn't expect Indy to go that deep back into the history of terrorism, but I'm glad he did. It kind of puts a full rounded picture on terrorism as a device, as a methodology to fight whatever. Some would even say that the American revolutionists were terrorists in the way that they stood up to the British Army and fought against them and conducted terror attacks like the Boston Tea Party, all kinds of sneak attacks that were done by the founders of our country over here. They started off as revolutionaries, as terrorists, doing skirmishes and small, they couldn't take on the big army face to face until later. So they hit them with small attacks, and, sometimes, the history is written by the victors, that kind of thing. So anyway, let's check out this live. This was the live given to me by, what was his name again? Hold on. BGA. I'm not sure which one this is, but it says Grassop 2008. So we'll go ahead and check that one out. And here we go.
Grasspop, there is some confusion here. I just realized we can play you another song that is not on our original set list. I think this one worked quite well when we played it last year in there. Let's try this. In the name of God!
Joachim's gotten a little heavy in the more recent videos. He looks nice and svelte and slim back here. Back in the day, I think we all, as we get older, we put on we get a little fluffy, we get a little puffy. But he looked nice and slim back then.
When it's time to pay the consequence of your action, reappear when you're almost forgotten. Dream of a world in peace, yet you must pay and destruction. Kill your own, the response of your passion. Chosen by God for a world of insane. Stand up and show me your face. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. Coming out to uniform and hiding in the crowd. Coming holy, coming just, for the rights by heaven. The wounded as they die and calling God's will. Please, let me see all hands in the air. Cause in all your lies, fear is in your eyes. The truth's gone insane, your war is in vain. And like cage of stone will destroy your home. Consequence of your action. Cause in all your eyes, fear is in your eyes. The truth's gone insane, your war is in vain. And like cage of stone will destroy your home. Consequence of your action. Fucking beautiful dress bomb. Chosen by God for power. Stand up and show me your face. Suicidal in guns, a religious army. Coming out in uniform and hiding in the crowd. Coming holy, coming just, for the rights by heaven. To be wounded as they die and calling God's will. Suicidal in a trance, a religious army. Coming out in uniform and hiding in the crowd. Vi ska suga på min kuk, vi ska skaka dasen. Vi ska suga på din kuk och svälja din sats.
All right. All right, so my opinion has not changed. This still will rank last on my list of favorite Sabaton songs. I hate to say that about any song, but something's got to be last, and this one's going to be it. The message is important, obviously, talking about terrorism, how it's evolved over the years. I really would like to hear any of your stories if you've been close to any of this terror that's happened over the last 10, 20 years. I'd like to know a little bit about how it impacted you. If you were there, if you how it changed your lives, those kind of things. Let me know in the comments. It's an important topic, and I'd love to have some discussions with you about what happened to you and your experience. And like Indy said, this is not something that's ever going to go away, because regardless of how great society is, there's always going to be a group of people who don't like the way that things are. And the only way that they feel that they can be heard and make a statement to the powers that be is to sneakily do attacks and hurt them, on as big a scale as possible to get their message that they believe is important out, whether it is or not. I'm not going to take sides. Obviously, I'm against all violence, regardless. So that's it for this reaction. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button down below. It doesn't hurt you at all, and it helps me out a lot. I didn't really kiss Sabaton's ass in this one, as some people might have done if they were doing fake reactions. This is a real reaction, and this is my real opinion. So if you respect that, give me a like down below. Let me know in the comments. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, we do a ton of Sabaton over here on Touchy Reactions. There's a big red button down here. Click on that subscribe button. It'll turn gray, let you know you subscribed. And if you hit that notification bell over to the side, it'll let you know anytime I drop some new content. Sabaton stuff drops on Saturdays and Sundays on my channel, so tune in for that. If you want to support a small channel that's trying to grow here on YouTube, we're creeping up on 8,000 subscribers. Thank you all to my subscribers. If you want to support us financially, I appreciate that very much. There's a link up here in the corner to the Patreon. If you join the Patreon, you get early access to all my videos before they go up on YouTube. As soon as I get done recording them and editing them, they immediately go up on Patreon and they get scheduled to come out in the future. I'm recording this on, let's see, this is March 5th, and it's not coming out on YouTube until the 20th of March. So we're about 15 days ahead on this particular song. We've got some other stuff that comes out later that I've already recorded and put up, but you know, this is just an example that this song's going to go up 15 days before it hits YouTube, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, that's all I got for this reaction today. I appreciate y'all stopping by, and please don't forget to come on back.